You able to see the presentation?
Yes.
Great, Mike.
All right, good. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Mike Horn. I'm with the Montana Department of Transportation. I'm in the Maintenance Division, Systems and Operations, and our rural TMC is within my bureau. So in the fall of 2020, Montana implemented a centralized transportation management center, and our goals were really to provide 24/7, 365 support for maintenance operations primarily, but all department operations in general. We also wanted to improve the frequency and consistency of travel-related messaging and create an organizational infrastructure that could support future ITS implementations. Our challenges prior to implementing this TMC, during the winter months, Montana will, our maintenance forces will staff up with seasonal staff, November to March, and in our 5 districts. And at that same time, the districts before our TMC would also staff up with office staff. So this was the only time that we would have 24/7 coverage in the office or on the road, would be November to March, prior to our TMC. So our field forces generally communicate via radio, analog radio, that reaches back to their local office, with relays, great coverage, or good coverage regionally, no coverage statewide. With the large number of relays, like I said, our topography just prevents those signals from getting very far outside of a specific region. We were faced with the fact that off-season incidents were continuing to increase, and emergency medical services, local law enforcement, our Montana Highway Patrol, our state police, needed a better way to contact our forces more easily and more reliably. So we took a look at the challenges, and senior management wanted to implement a TMC. Their first hurdle was staffing. We looked at what it would take to staff 24/7, 365 locally versus centrally, and determined that our highest likelihood of success would be to go to centralize this. So we made the decision to centralize. We approached the 2019 legislature, asked for 7 full-time permanent positions, and we were actually granted those positions, which was kind of unusual in Montana, I'm sure in many states. We took the aggregated positions, the seasonal staff that were hired in the districts, and we transferred those to headquarters also. So our first hurdle was staffing. We overcame that, legislative approval. Next hurdle was communication. And as I said, we have our truck radios are all analog currently, or they were at the time, and they still are. Had good communication at the district level with all the relays that we had, but there was no statewide communication. So we looked at a couple of different options. The microwave radio network that our state police uses, we looked at that. It could support our use as well. And coincidentally, the state police is centralized. Their dispatch is centralized in Helena also, where we are. So we took a look at that. We also took a look at ROIP, radio over IP. And the current radios that we use are Zetron radios, and Zetron fit in well with the ROIP option. So looking through both options, we decided to go with the ROIP, the Zetron. It was a lower cost. We already had that deployed in all of our plow trucks. We were already familiar with it. We had the relays in place. What we ended up doing was installing a gateway in many of our area offices, and that gateway was taking that analog signal coming in from the field radios, digitizing it, and then transferring it over the state network. So Our second hurdle was solved. We were able to get communication back centrally. So now we could move forward with developing a TMC. So our TMC built out. We worked on standard operating procedures. We created our job profiles. All this was done in late spring, early summer of 2020. So kind of right in the middle of COVID, we were doing all this. We had to determine where we were going to locate the TMC. We had to, like I said, from scratch, we had to build the profiles. We had to hire dispatchers, hired 6 full-time, hired a communications tech, had to determine a location for it. We looked again at co-locating with our state police. Didn't look like that was going to give us enough room for what we wanted to do. So we built in-house. We had a location available, and with most of our staff teleworking, we had a lot of space to work with. So we built an in-house location where we can have 7 operators at once on the radios, on the phones, working the entire state. So we got the permission to hire employees July 1st. We got all the hirings done, got them all trained, actually went live with our TMC on October 24th, 2020. And the first 2 days of operation, we had probably the biggest snowstorm we've had in the last 5 or 6 years. Dropped 18 inches right here in town, which was kind of unheard of, but also a statewide storm, which was unusual for Montana. The size of the state, usually we hit a few areas at once, but TMC held up well. Our TMC areas of responsibility, these have grown and matured a little bit since we first implemented, but anything that hits our traveler information map should come through our TMC. They're the ones that put information out there. We provide 24/7 coverage for all MDT employees. So in the beginning, the initial push was for our maintenance staff. They're the ones that are primarily out after hours, especially during the winter. We run winter operations 24/7 if there's a storm going on, a weather event. But we do provide we do provide coverage for all of our staff, our construction crews, our engineering project managers. They'll contact our TMC for information, to place incidents on the map, for help when needed as well. So also provide all communication with emergency providers. So state police, our Montana Highway Patrol, local law enforcement, tribal law enforcement. Their first call is our TMC, and then we contact our forces for dispatch. And our TMC also manages all our variable message signs. So they 2 big things are the travel information software, and then the dynamic or variable message signs, getting those messages out. Area offices are still staffed during business hours. Says here they deal with local public requests for sand. Most of that's starting to come in through the TMC now. A lot of it's bypassed the area offices. We didn't really promote or advertise the number for the TMC, but of course that's got out. So people will contact it directly or get transferred from area offices. Yeah. So we're just getting ready for our third winter of operations in our TMC, and some of the lessons we've learned as we implemented check-in, check-out, weekday operation support, temporary staff. So check-in, check-out, we all of our staff during the winter months are required to radio in to check in to service, and then at the end of the day they check out of service also. Safety thing, these guys in Montana, at least during the winter months, when they arrive at work, they're generally showing up, getting in a truck and heading out on the road to take care of the road. There are times when they don't have to, but that's probably 90% of what they're doing. So those staff check in, check out. As a statewide operation, we really learned early on that we had to stagger that before all this was happening in the districts, and it was easy for them to handle the volume our TMC now, coming through these Zetron machines, our TMC operators have access to every relay and every radio in the state. So it can get quite busy and quite noisy in there. So we've had to stagger our check-in, check-out just a little bit. We're actually going to do something different with the checkout this year, but I'll get to that in a moment. Second lesson learned was weekday operation support. When we were first setting this up, we really looked at what our state highway patrol had and how they were staffing their call center. And we kind of made some assumptions based upon how they were doing work. And what we realized very quickly on was that we needed to be staffed when our employees were at work, and that's our maintenance forces. So we're still staffed on the weekends and overnight, and we do ramp up during weather events. But we're busiest Monday through Friday during the day when our staff is on, when our field staff is working. So we really adjusted our hours to mesh with that. Temporary staff, we learned after the very first year, we really tried to hire fewer temporary staff and give them longer shifts, and that didn't work as well as last year. What we did was we hired a lot more temporary staff, and we started them on shorter shifts. So we started most of our temporary staff, except for our returners, we'd start at 20 to 30 hours a week. Had to hire more staff that way, and fortunately we've been lucky that we haven't had an issue doing that. We've been able to hire those staff. So we had to hire more staff that way, but also give us a lot of leeway when if these individuals left work early, decided they found a permanent job somewhere else. Temporary staff, the transitory nature of some of the employees you get, this just gave us a lot more flexibility to pick those hours up, to distribute them to other staff without running into overtime situations. And then networks dependency has been huge. When we first implemented our TMC, we were using a homegrown travel software system, and so it was in the state domain, in the state network. So we were dependent on the state network to access our travel information system, and we were dependent on the state network to get our radio signals from our plow drivers. That's been tough, and we've been working with our communication folks to try to come up with ways around that, especially for the radios. We've moved our travel information system to a vendor hosted system, and that's helped quite a bit with that network dependency. So in the middle of all this, we did implement a new traveler information system. We replaced a 20-year-old homegrown system with the Iteris product. They were our 511 IVR vendor, and we partnered with them for their mobile apps and website. So we rolled those out last September, and that's been going well. They also added a function in the travel software to allow us to do call logging and check in, check out our employees. And the check in, check out's been very beneficial. Gives us a really quick way. Our operators always have that software up. It gives them a really quick way to check people into service. They can check an entire section into service quite easily. And because it's all in the travel software, one of the things that we're going to be working on is pushing out. All of our forces have access to that. We're going to be pushing out access for enhanced access for supervisors and superintendents one level above the supervisor, so that they'll actually be able to do some of that checkout themselves and do some condition reporting themselves if they so desire. So future direction, implementing the TMC we knew that was the basis for any ITS initiatives that we want to come down the road. So this gives us now a 24/7 presence that can monitor and respond to any of these other other ITS initiatives that we hope to do. We're currently evaluating Iris for an ATMS software. We're discussing with our engineering group about smart work zones. We just this summer did a variable speed limit proof of concept, an area outside of Glacier Park where the traffic backs up because of entry into the park onto the highway, and we've implemented, or we did a seasonal implementation of a variable speed limit. Seemed to go pretty well. Got a lot of work to do before we make it mainstream, but that's already been in place. We want to get into runway ramp detection and event management as well. And I think that's about all I have. So I thank you for your time.